Hello everyone. I'm using a ring light that I typically use for my makeup. So I have no idea how well the light's gonna look. I also wanted to show you my shirt because you can't really see it. It says all booked for Christmas. My bestie and book buddy Stephanie got me this for my birthday actually, and I actually really love it because I don't have a whole lot of book shirts. I have this one, and then I have another one that has all of Taylor Swift's albums, but they're like books. But anyway, I wanted to do kind of like a little review of some of my favorite books that I've read in 2024. I don't have a total just yet, but pretty much close to 30 something that I've read this year, which is literally the most books I've ever read in a year and possibly my entire life. Over the last several years, I've been getting really into reading. I have Kindle Unlimited, and that has helped a lot. So yeah, I've got quite a few hardbacks here. I don't have all of them because there is a portion of them that are on Audible, but I'm pretty much more so going to highlight authors because I don't want to be here all day. I'm going to highlight authors and then some of my favorite books that they've written and also the books that I have read by them. So my first book that I don't have here, I read on Kindle. It's not necessarily my favorite author, but a book that I had been wanting to read for quite some time now, was The Host, and I had it on here on my Kindle, and I don't have it saved here anymore. Let me find it. I want to show you also, I don't know if you can see the whole back while I'm trying to find it here. Here it is. It is The Host by Stephanie Meyer, I believe it is. Once it opens up, here we go. It's opening. Oh my goodness, I am sorry. I was not, this is the first, of course, the first book I'm not prepared for, of course. So prepared. I just want to see the cover. Can I not see the cover? Is that not a possibility? Aha, there it is. Stephanie Meyer. Now, this is a movie that came out a long time ago, and I very much loved it. It's very like a sci-fi. If you've never read this book, it's the same author that, if you don't know and you live under a rock, it's the same author that writes the Twilight stories, which I've never read the Twilight stories. I've seen the movies. Was not my cup of tea. Sorry, it was not my cup of tea. Just wasn't into it. But that said, The Host, I really did like the sci-fi aspect of it. There were things I didn't particularly like about her writing style per se, but I loved the story, and I really was looking forward to a sequel. Supposedly there was supposed to be a sequel, both movie and book, and we didn't get one, and it just kind of feels incomplete. I really hope that someone would maybe one day write like what's it called, like a fanfic kind of sort of that. I think that that would be really cool. And of course I can't find the other book that I was just looking at earlier. So that was like quite literally one of, if not the first book that I read of the year. But I want to get into, kind of want to separate these into fantasies. Perfect. Okay, I have a couple of assortment of hardcovers in front of me. So kind of going off of the we'll do the what I like to call real life romance type of a situation. So an author that I've discovered this year is Abby Jimenez. I can never pronounce her name correctly. This is the book Part of Your World. I read multiple books by her. I read Part of Your World. I also read Friend Zone. I read the sequel to the Friend Zone, which is I believe it's the Happily Ever After playlist. I adore her writing so very much. It's just very easy to read. It's very just conversational wise. It just is very chill. Like there's not much more to understand about it. I don't know. It's just very easy for me to read. But what I loved about the stories, especially, so this one, The Friend Zone, and then Happily Ever After playlist, and then there's also a third one as well that I have not read yet, but I plan on reading next year. They're all sequels, or they're all a series. And what I love about it, this series in particular, is like this story is about a specific couple, and then the next story is about another couple that has characters that are in this. Sorry, my keyboard just fell. And then the third story is about characters from that story. So like it's not a continuation per se of like the characters in this, the couple in this story. It is a romance, by the way. But like they do cameos and they're like still involved. And I just think that's really cool because it's like focusing on a new couple and like their new romance, but also like it's like, hey, let's check in on what they're doing. I just also loved that kind of with the, because I used to read a lot of Colleen Hoover books, and I've just recently just not connected with them as much anymore. But I feel like that she's a really good replacement in a sense, because each story has kind of something different about each of the couples, and like something that they're focused on. Like, for example, Part of Your World, this is a completely different series, so completely different, you know, to the characters that are in this one. It's about two characters who, one is basically from the city and one is from the country. It's a typical city country story, but it's kind of how they like blend their different dreams and likes and dislikes together and how they fit, just like the opposites attract kind of. This one is very different. She kind of feels like she's never going to find like the true love because she feels like she's damaged goods. And like her best friend is in the next one, and like her husband passes away, and it's about her kind of having this like story fairy tale romance with kind of like a rock star in a sense, and thinking like this is never going to work because like this is just too out there, too different, you know. And I just love how different the stories are and how different the characters are. But again, it's so easy for me to read. It's like there's no extra lore that I need to learn about or anything. It's just like a boy meets a girl and they have a romance together. Things get complicated, but they all work. That's another thing. Every single one of her stories ends in a happily ever after. I know it might seem predictable, but like there's always some sort of twist at the end, but they always end in happily ever after. And I feel like I need that when I read like a fun little romance story. I need these two to end up together. I don't care how it happens, but it needs to happen. I've read this one. Like I said, I've read the second one, and then I've read, this video is already 7 minutes long, goodness gracious. I've read this one, and I'm planning on reading more. Like she's got another story coming out. I can't remember what it's called. It's something, oh no, the one came out this year, something about summer. I was going to read that, but I had already started reading fall books. And so I plan on reading that next year, for the summer. And then there was another story that's coming out next year. I can't remember what that one is, but sounds like a Taylor Swift song. I can't remember. It's like Say You Remember Me or something like that. I can't remember, but I'm very excited about getting that book. So that is going to be it when it comes to, I don't want to say like real life romances. That sounds weird. That's not what I mean to call it, but that's what it sounds like to me. But anyway, Bridgerton. I just recently got this whole collection of the Bridgerton books for my birthday, and I'm very happy. Look how beautiful. Can we just appreciate the binding? I have well, there's 2 in each of these, but like I have all 8 stories for all 8 of the kids. But this last year, I read the story. This is When He Was Wicked. It's Francesca's story. This is Eloise and Francesca's, but I've read Francesca's story. I just love this so much. It's so pretty. But anyway, so I read Francesca's story because I knew that she was going to be featured in season 3 of Bridgerton, and I wanted to kind of get to know her because we didn't really know a whole lot about Francesca. Of course, if you are a big Bridgerton fan and you've watched the show, you know the controversy it ended on, and we're not going to go into that right now. We're going to go into this version of Francesca's story. Okay. I surprisingly loved it so much to the point where I think it's actually my favorite story. Well, one of my favorites. My favorite is still Benedict and Sophie's story. But like after Benedict and Sophie, Daphne and Simon was one of my favorites because I really relate to Daphne a lot, being a super sheltered, conservative Christian homeschooler person. I definitely relate to Daphne a lot. But what I loved about Francesca's story, and I don't want to give too many spoilers away if you are a Bridgerton fan, is it just kind of like had a major twist in the beginning that you weren't really expecting. Mostly because like you get a little bit of her story as you're reading the other books, and you're just kind of like, where is this going exactly? But I really loved it's not even really enemies to lovers. It's kind of like the dark kind of bad boy that falls in love with like a good girl and doesn't feel like he's good enough for her. And then the tragic love story involved is something that bad happens to Francesca's side. That's all I'm going to say. And like how she kind of overcomes and moves on in a sense, and like kind of accepts the fact that it's okay to fall in love with him. Also surprisingly steamy. I know all the Bridgerton books are steamy one way or another, but like I just kind of wasn't expecting it to be as steamy as it was. Not saying I didn't enjoy it, but I just kind of liked it a little more because of that. It was just very unexpected and like, you know, a little more scandalous than the typical Bridgerton, which is saying a lot. But yeah, I really liked Francesca's story. A lot. I love how it ended as well. Again, don't want to give anything away if you've not read the book. I highly recommend you please read the story in here if you like Francesca, or if you sympathize with her. It is a very different storyline than what they've lined up in the Bridgerton show. I have no idea where they're going with it in the next one, if I'm being perfectly honest, just because I've heard so many different things from so many different people. But thoroughly enjoyed When He Was Wicked. Very good book. I've actually had that, I had just read that and I only have 2 more books left. I have Hyacinth and Gregory left over. Plan on reading both of those next year, or at least one of those next year. And I'm really excited because now I have a beautiful hardback cover I can read from it. So that is the Bridgertons. Now we're going into fantasy, which I have read ACOTAR and what was it, the second one? I don't even know what the second one was. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. This was the year of fantasy reading because my bestie and I, like I was explaining, we really got into fantasy stories and like just random fantasy, this, that, and the other thing. I accidentally set her off on an ACOTAR around the Sarah J. Maas world and could not get her out of it. So I took it upon myself this summer to try and find something else that was fantasy that we both would like, because I read the first one, didn't really like it that much. Read the second one, kind of liked it a little more, but still wasn't my cup of tea. But anywho, I wanted to share some books that I love. Now, I love both of these different authors, and they both have books coming out soon, so this is very exciting. I'm going to touch on this one first. I was like, which one do I want to start with? Which one do I want to end with? Allie Ernest and the Gate Chronicles books. Now, I did a whole video on this. I'm not going to go into it in detail on this. Allie Ernest is an indie author. She posts regularly on Instagram about her books and things. This is the second book. This is my favorite, Realms of Wrath and Ruin. It is a no spice, slow burn romance. I've also discovered that I really like slow burn romances a lot more than they hook up at the beginning of the story type of a thing. I mean, like, for example, this is the second book, they don't even share a kiss in the first one. But what I loved about their story is it's like not even based around romance. It's more like this bad thing is happening and we just happen to like each other as well, which I think is like really nice, because then you're able to like, there's more than one storyline going on in a sense. But like I said, I ranted and raved about this series in another video. Please go check out that video. I'll try to remember to put it in the link in the description below. Such a sweet girl, by the way. The author, she's so sweet. She's so nice. I love the interaction that she does with her fans. I've like talked to her personally several times online, and I think it's great. And she's working on a third book. They just announced the cover and the title. I cannot remember for the life of me what it's called. I think it's Smoke and something. Very excited about that, like beyond excited, especially considering that this one kind of ended on a cliffhanger. But I absolutely love it. I literally love this storyline so much that I have a playlist of a bunch of different songs that remind me of these two, Case and Hallie. Absolutely love it. If you don't know what it's about, briefly, kind of takes place in like a steampunk kind of Victorian time style, but it's like in the future on like a new planet, a new world. It's not on Earth. And they kind of find like these mystical alien creatures in a sense. They're more like the natives of humans landing there. Kind of learn like all this different magical things that they have. There's also a war going on, so there's that. There's a mystery with her. He's kind of like the bad boy pilot. Think Anakin Skywalker vibes, but his family is like rich and has all this pressure on him to act and be a certain way. And she's kind of like a scholar of sorts that likes to learn about different things. And if you go on her Instagram, you'll definitely see the vibes of the books. She does a really good job at like explaining like in short terms what the books are all about. But I absolutely loved them. First book is very much like The Lost City of Atlantis. This one's very much like kind of think Anastasia and Dimitri getting stuck together on this journey. But yeah, I'm really excited because the end of this gets like really like magical and crazy, and I'm excited. It's gonna be good. I'm really excited. Also, you could get, I don't know if you can still do it now, you can get signed copies on Etsy. I got a signed copy and I got a sticker. That's Hallie on my Kindle, little sticker. And then I also got like a little art thing that I have actually hanging up on my desk. So she's good to her fans. Very, very excited about that. And then we're gonna end on Spark of the Everflame series by Penn Cole. Now, these books took me a lot longer to read through. This is the first one, Spark of the Everflame. There's Spark, and then I think there's Burn, and it's 4 books. She has 3 of them out right now. I started reading these on Kindle Unlimited throughout the beginning of the summer, and I planned on ending it around the time that the 4th book was coming out. This is a small rant of mine, by the way. The 4th book was supposed to come out in July. Then when I got to July, I realized they changed the release date to be, I think it was supposed to be September or October, I can't remember. Then they pushed it back to December. And then soon after they pushed it back to December, they said it is coming soon. I think they announced that it was coming in next year, but I don't think it's coming until like April, I think. So just warning you, if you also, all of these books kind of end on a cliffhanger as well. So luckily the first 3 are all in Kindle Unlimited. That said, once you get to the end, just be advised there's no 4th story just yet, and we don't know when. But this is very cool because this involves kind of like magic and like mutants in a sense, where like there's people who have powers and people who don't have powers, and there's kind of like princesses and royalty, which is something that I really liked. I love like the whole princess royalty, thing thrown into, and I love how there's a lot of like mystery and secrets about her. It's literally been forever since I've read it, but like, it's a good book. I don't know how else to explain it without giving too much away. There's a love triangle in the first one, which I have mixed feelings about love triangles, because then you get invested on someone and then they don't end up with them, and then you're just really upset about it. That said, the love triangle, I very much wanted her to be with one guy instead of the other, and it was very obvious. There's also a little bit of that, like, kind of protector, of like type 5, where it's like the love interest is kind of like a protector, kind of like a prince also in the same way. This one's very much a will they, won't they? And then the next one, it's like, well, they like each other, but they kind of dance around it. And then the third one's like, things finally get interesting. So it's also kind of like a slow burn in a sense as well. But like the flirting is very steamy, like very, very steamy. And there is spice for definite. I don't remember. I think there's spice in this one. I think there's minimum spice in this one, but like the next one and the one after, the spice gets heated. It burns. This one, it just sparks, if you know what I mean. I believe she only has like the first 2 in a hard copy. I actually saw this at Barnes & Noble, and Stephanie and I got one because I've been trying to get her to get into this book, and I think she'll like it when she finishes reading it. But that's just some of the books that I have read. I have a Goodreads account. Again, I try to remember to put it in the description below. But if there's any like fantasy or like romance stories that you really liked, or tell me, actually change that. Tell me if you've read it from any of the authors. Oh my God, I almost forgot. Oh my gosh, before I forget, Speaking of authors, my favorite, I don't think I have it on here. I don't know if I have it on here. I don't have it, and I'm really sorry, Lucy Foley. So my absolute favorite murder mystery authors, I have two more I forgot to mention, Lisa Jewell and Lucy Foley, I think is how you pronounce her last name. Lisa Jewell, I read a lot of her mystery stories this year. But one that I actually read and I thought was hers, and it's actually not by her. It's called Last Lie Wins. And I listened to it. It's about a spy. I can't get my Kindle to open, and it's really frustrating me. Hello? Thank you. Last Lie Wins by, I think it's Ashley something. Yes, by Ashley Elston. It's got Lisa Jewell vibes. If you've read a book by Lisa Jewell, which I read, what were the two that I read? I Found You, and I read the Family Upstairs series, which, let me tell you, if you want some crazy family, like controversial family drama that you're like, oh dear God, the Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell is something else. It is a wild, crazy ride. But the I Found You story was also really cool. If this one's the one that I think it is, it's a story. The thing I like about Lisa Jewell stories that Lucy Foley also kind of does is it's different POVs. And one of the POVs is always something that happened in the past. And the whole time you're trying to think, like, how do these two stories connect? And with Lisa Jewell, I really like how she does it because it's typically the POV of a character that is still alive in the present day, and they've changed their name, or you don't realize who they are. So when you finally are able to have that big, like, aha twist at the end, it's like crazy. But Lucy Foley, what I love is, like, typically, like, there's current day and then there's like previously. Current day, it's typically like they found a body, something happened, and then you slowly find out, like, is it a female? Who do they look like? Who found it? Who's still alive? And all along the same way, you're following all these different characters and kind of piecing together, like, any, like, you know, rough housing and friction going on between them, and you're trying to figure out who of these characters died and how did they die, and then at the end you're trying to figure out, like, who actually killed them. But Lucy Foley recently came out. I love her. She's an amazing author. So much fun listening to her audios, by the way. Same thing with Lisa Jewell. Lisa Jewell, the narrators who do her audiobooks, also great. But she came out with a book called Midnight Feast this year. Wasn't my favorite out of all of her books, but I loved I wish it kind of came out closer to fall. It was really weird because, like, the story had fall vibes, but it took place in the summer. It was odd. It was real odd to me. But it was just really, like, cool, creepy, like, cult, like, witchy vibes, in, like, a really, like, creepy way. Like, I read a lot of books this year by small authors that were like witch stories, like Erin, I can't remember what her name is, the author that writes The Kissing Curse and The Ex-Hex. I read The Kissing Curse this year. Also really good book for Halloween. Definitely recommend reading The Kissing Curse and The Ex-Hex. They're fun witchy vibes. I read a lot of fun witchy vibes. But anyway, the Midnight Feast was just really interesting. I kind of predicted it in the end, in a way, only because of there were less characters. The more characters that are in her book, the more you're like, who's going to die, who's going to kill them, and why are they going to kill them? Versus like the hunting party, for example, and then the Midnight Feast. They only really focus on a certain amount of characters. And I think with the way that the Midnight Feast was written, it was more, I don't want to say predictable, because you don't really want to say that when it comes to a mystery, but like, I kind of knew who was going to survive just by how everything was playing out, you know? But again, love her books. Absolutely love Lucy Foley's books. And again, like, I highly recommend Lisa Jewell and Lucy Foley. like if you're going to book read it, also listen to it. The performances are amazing, and also because there are so many POVs, it's a lot easier to keep track of who is who because of that. But anyway, if you liked any of the authors that I've mentioned today, please tell me which is your favorite from this book, What's your favorite book from that author? If you've read any of the books that I mentioned today, please let me know. Please let me know if you liked them or not. Something that I find really interesting when it comes to books, especially bestseller books, is that not every bestseller is my cup of tea, but I also love a lot of small authors that a lot of people don't like. So it's just really interesting for preferences and stuff. Like Sarah J. Maas, can't stand her writing or her characters, but the whole world seems to love her. So, and also this is no hate. Again, no hate. And I push that because I'm actually writing a book right now. I've actually finished writing a book right now. It is a love story fantasy type. It's not really YA. It's more on the cusp of YA into like adult fantasy. There is a bit, just a tiny bit of spice in it. And yeah, I actually plan on, I'm finishing my editing portion as we speak, and I plan on sending it off to my editor fairly shortly. As soon as I have everything all lined up, hopefully we should have it out for pre-order, by spring at least. Like I would like to have it be done before like February. I would like to have it done as soon as possible, if I'm being perfectly honest, but we'll see how the editing process and everything works. It's going to be self-published, but I'm really excited. I'll film more videos about that as well. But if you're interested, let me know and I'll do maybe a little series on all of that. And yeah, if I don't see you again, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. I hope you have a great holiday week and weekend. I will be working, unfortunately. Disney's open, so I will be there too. And we actually have right now, I'm in the process of trying to shorten my shifts because I've got crazy long shifts that came out of nowhere for that week. So that's exciting. It actually is kind of exciting because in all honesty, we're saving up to go to a cruise this coming year. And that is very exciting because we plan on taking my friend Tiffany as well. We've never gone on a cruise with somebody else. It's always just been Jared and I. And so yay. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good day. Have a magical day. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.